I'd like to tell you that the Holocaust led to the end of racism and anti-Semitism in the Federal Republic and the GDR, but it didn't. That's partly because it took a very long time for ordinary Germans to take responsibility for their part in the Nazi dictatorship and the genocide against the Jews, and to view the Second World War as one that was started for imperial expansion, the predatory extraction of resources, and the subjugation and eradication of whole classes of European people. But it's also because each German state after 1945 used fascism and its legacy for political purposes and in their competition with each other. So in each country, but in different ways, the argument about fascism was that Germans were the real victims of the Third Reich. In the GDR, the ruling Communist Party argued that the GDR was founded directly in response to National Socialism as an anti-fascist state. And they emphasized the category of class as against the category of race, Klasse, nicht Rasse. So they talked about anti-fascist, anti-capitalism, and argued that all of the capitalists were essentially fascists and all of the fascists were racist, and they all lived in West Germany. So there was no need in East Germany to fight racism because it was an anti-racist country by definition. Now that was the theory. Of course, it wasn't actually true. There was an enormous amount of anti-Semitism, anti-Polish sentiment, and racism against socialist allies, people from socialist countries in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, Cuba, that combined German colonial fantasies about people of color with Nazi notions about German racial superiority. Meanwhile, in West Germany, the focus was on restoring Weimar democracy, but at the same time, not trying to argue that the problems that Weimar had and its collapse into National Socialism would overtake West Germany either. So the slogan was, Bonn is not Weimar. And the narrative, of course, has absolutely nothing to do with fascism in a direct way or racism at all. And many of the politicians, in fact, had been heroes in the Weimar era. But in fact, this kind of heroic attempt to restore democracy in West Germany actually led to a variety of compromises, so that the first chancellor, who served for a very long time, Konrad Adenauer, who was a Democrat, nevertheless thought that it was really important to integrate Nazis into the Federal Republic to make sure that they didn't try and undermine the Republic from inside, as they had done to Weimar. The problem was that many former Nazis, not a few, but many, took positions of power and prestige in government, business, and culture. As a result, there was no real discussion of the Holocaust until the 1980s, and even then, it was very often very defensive. So despite the progress that was made in public debate before and after the collapse of German communism, there's still no anti-racist consensus in Germany, despite the genocide against the Jews and the Sinti and the Roma. Anti-Semitism is often discussed apart from racism against Turks and Arabs. Jews continue in some circles to represent German shame for many Germans and everything that Germans aren't by definition, while Muslims are regarded as so completely different and inferior that they cannot possibly be integrated into German society. This is true even among educated Germans. In fact, there have been very few attempts to integrate Afro-Germans and other people of color into German society.